Hey, my YouTube friends. I got inspired to do a project, kind of a DIY project on one of my rehab and flip properties that I've been working on. And I've got an issue that I'm not really sure exactly how to address. And let me show you what I'm working with here, and I'll kind of give you the background of what we're going to do and why. So we've got this, I call this Super 70s disco brick. I don't have any better name for it. It's just, we typically, you know, when I say I don't necessarily like the bricks stacked in clean, vertical, horizontal rows like that. I much prefer to see, if there is brick in a property, that it's got, you know, at least a 30% offset or a 50% offset, so the brick is kind of staggered. I prefer to see used brick if brick is going to be used. And, you know, this wall was completely redone and reframed. There was a wood pass-through for this property. This property was built in 1962, so it's had a lot of era-specific things in here that it's just not modern. And that's kind of the biggest rub about the whole thing. You can see over the years and prior to when I have been involved in this project that it's, you know, we got spray paint on it. Looks like there was some electrical going on in here at one point that's been abandoned. There's the gas line that originally ran in here for the fire assist has been busted off. That's been replumbed. This whole thing is just like a garbage project that just really needs some TLC and it just needs to be redone. So I found some inspiration from another YouTuber that I'll go ahead and credit all of his information and sources in here, forgetting the name while I'm doing this video, but he really inspired me to try to go ahead and do a concrete slab here. So I'm going to do a concrete mantelpiece here, and that's going to give us the opportunity to plumb new gas lines underneath this brick area and give us a little ambiance feature in there with a, you know, just a gas burner in there instead of actually using it with wood. This house has you know, HVAC system on it, so it's not like this fireplace is being used for heat as it was probably originally. Now, the original property had gas wall heaters all through it. That's all been taken out, redone. There's twin AC systems on this one. So there's no real need for this other than just centerpiece and ambiance and that kind of thing. And, you know, it just looks ugly. So the style on this property is kind of a farmhouse style with a little bit of a modern spin. You know, you see a lot of that kind of stuff is kind of trendy and popular now. So it kind of falls right in line with what's contemporary at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and try to take my hand at doing a concrete mantelpiece here, and then we're going to finish this whole thing out with some different aesthetic elements to really make that farmhouse theme kind of come out. So let's try this. Now, I've never done this before. This is my first hand at trying something like this. You know, the video that I watched really kind of inspired me, gave me a lot of faith that this is simple enough that I can do it myself. I've got the tools, but I don't really work too much with concretes or muds or anything like that. So I really don't know what I'm getting myself into. This whole thing could go completely sideways. I'm really not sure how this is going to end up, but I'm going to video it. If it goes sideways, maybe you can learn from my mistakes. If it doesn't, then, you know, try your hand at it as well. There's really not much in the way of materials for this project. Let me take you outside and show you what we got. Okay, so we're out here in my kind of my back shop area for this particular project. A little makeshift here, but we are going to use the Rapid Set mortar mix, which was recommended in the video. Shows high strength structural repair mortar, and just like they said in the video, you can see back here on the instruction sets, on what it looks like after it's done, and you can see 6,500 psi after 28 days of cure time. This thing is, as this continues to cure, it's going to be really solid. So we got ourselves some melamine, and we built a form. So the idea here is this mantle piece is going to be, it's going to be a 2-inch pour. It's going to be a nice thick slab. You know, that's going to be a couple 100 pounds worth of stone there once we're done. The recommendation was to use Spax. Let's see if I can find the box here. I'll put all the information to the video so that you can just take the other guy's advice, not mine. I'm just giving my hand at this on my own. But Spax screws, wafer heads, the ones that I found were not Phillips, they were T15s, but they come with a bit, so everything you need comes out of the box. And then black silicone. Don't judge me my silicone job. The idea is to just seal up the edges and the gaps so that as we pour this mortar mix in here, we get a nice clean crisp edge and nothing leaks out of our form. And when we're done, this bottom piece should be the flush surface of the cast. So we prepped this form, went through using WD-40 as a releasing agent, just to keep that melamine surface nice and slick and smooth, so that as we go to release the form, the concrete doesn't stick to the material and it should pop right out. If not, we can always pull these Spax screws out of the sides of the form walls and pry it apart if we need to. The form is sacrificial. If we need to get, if we need to bust it down, we can. Ideally, if I make a mistake or I crack the stone or I do something too quick and it doesn't work out, I like to try to save the form just in case I need to pour another batch. Hoping it won't come to that. But again, I'm a novice. I don't really know what I'm doing here. We'll see. We'll see how this works. My biggest concern right now is, despite the high strength of this material, this is a very long slab. So we're about 22 inches wide across this form here, and we're a little over 100 inches in length. So this is a big big piece of material. We calculated that we're going to need about 4 bags of the mortar mix. So mortar mix makes up about a half a cubic foot of material. So we're expecting, about 2 cubic feet of material if our calculations are right. Which I think we're spot on. Just in case, we bought 1 extra bag, because there's nothing worse than being short when you're in the middle of a job like this, and to have your material just not exactly be that full 2-inch thickness that we're looking for. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and start with mixing the first batch, and let's see where we go from there. Okay, we're back. We've just screeded out the concrete and the form. Sprayed it down with a little bit of water just because we're starting to dry out. We used a Sawzall. We're going to use this Ryobi Sawzall with no attachment in there just to vibrate the edges to get all the bubbles and the voids and the air traps out. I was a little skeptical that with as thin as the mix is, I didn't necessarily expect that there would be much in the way of voids because it seemed like it was pretty fluid, but don't miss that step, because certainly as I was going around there was a lot of air bubbles that popped up, so it can be a little bit deceiving. Step that we didn't get on camera is I stuffed a couple of 1/4-inch pieces of rebar in here, just because I was concerned about the overall length. And as I'm manipulating this thing, what's the chances that I knock it out of this form and I crack it? Now, all indicators are showing that that's not really a concern, but I'd rather be kind of safe than sorry. So anyways, I got a couple of hours invested in putting this thing together now, and I'd really hate to have that thing crack just because I skipped a step that I could have very easily just taken care of from scratch. So anyways, you can see a couple of little screed lines in there. I'm not too worried about the bottom half of this being perfect, because that is going to be the side that is going to be glued down to my brick. So the ugly side face down. So actually, all in all, turning out to be pretty good. We had calculated that we needed 4 bags, and we actually used 5. So it's a little bit of a mystery to me where the extra ½ cubic foot of material went. Actually, it's not that much, because you can see there's a lot of overspill, and I got a half a bucket of mud left too. So anyways, it just a little bit in the mixing and scraping stuff out of the bucket and not getting a full batch probably had to do with the need to crack one more bag. But I'm glad I did, because it was just under the edge, and I really wanted a 2-inch edge, so that gave me just enough that I could screed out the top. And you can see, as we got this wet surface here, it's already starting to show signs of curing. And it's only been a few, it's been about 5-10 minutes since we stopped working it. So sets pretty quick. I'm excited to see what it is going to come out like after we're done. Now, it says that it's cured in about an hour, except for in low temperatures. So right now, I'm going to say that we're in low temperatures. We're probably in the mid-50s right now, so it's not drying real fast. It doesn't have direct sunlight on it. You can see the batch is still a little bit wet. So I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep this here in this position. I'm not going to mess with it, and then we're going to come back tomorrow, and we're going to see what we got. If this thing turns out to be a complete disaster, or if we win. And if it looks like the other side's close enough, we'll probably do some finishing out work with some stone tools on the other side, just to make sure our edges are nice and clean and straight, and then we're very likely to put a finish coat on this thing. So that's to be determined. I don't know where that part of the project's going to go yet, but so far so good. We're looking at having a successful operation here. So more to come. I'll continue this video in the next day or so. So we'll be back. Okay, just something I want to make a quick note on. The stone, or the concrete, mortar mix, it's actually visibly hot. I wouldn't, you can see where I've been sticking my grubby little fingers in there. But it's actually, as it starts to kick, it gets hot. I kind of knew that there was going to be some sort of reaction for the curing. I just didn't expect it to get hot. More like something like I might expect with an epoxy or something. But I thought that was an interesting point. Thought I'd come back and kind of show you that. So yes, it's not just warm. It's hot. So kind of cool. And a bit of a surprise. So there's that. All right, party people, we're back at the job site. So we got our concrete slab busted out of the form. Spare you the pain of having to watch that process. I was really kind of hoping that that form would just kind of pop off like a Jello mold or something. It was a little bit more challenging than that, but not too much. You can kind of see that there's some discoloration right there on the top. That seems to be right in line with the areas that were kind of sticking. So we had silicone right here in this area. There's a little bit of a seam right there. Probably have to use something to sand that out. We joined two pieces of melamine there with some dowels, and we just smeared some silicone over there to kind of seal it up. So that was just a little tiny section that was longer than our 4x8 sheet of melamine could handle. So we did everything we could to make it kind of seam up nice. And that seam is really, really tiny. It's almost indetectable by the fingers, but you can see it visually. So these areas right here that are dark seem to be the areas that our mortar came in contact with the silicone. So that's kind of interesting. I didn't expect that. Maybe it was, maybe we rushed the process and we didn't let the silicone get quite cured enough before we poured the mix in there. Not really 100% sure. I thought it was good and dry. We sprayed WD-40 as a releasing agent, just following the straight instructions that we got from Michael Builds. And I gotta say, we got some voids in here. I was a little shocked to see as many voids as there is. It's not terrible, but we had a lot of bubbles come out through the vibration process, and you can kind of see, like right here, this line is kind of interesting to me, and I think that this is where we blended one batch and then poured another batch right over the top of it. So that was kind of a perfect spot for some voids to kind of develop there. So interestingly enough, we're okay with the voids being there. Kind of actually took on a travertine kind of look to it. Now I could go back in with some mix and just fill these in and give it a nice smooth rub down. If I want it really glossy smooth, I could come back in here with some polyester filler and just give a little bit of a Bondo treatment. That thing would be perfectly glassy smooth. But I'm okay with the way it came out. I'm actually 100%, 110% happy with this whole process. This slab was extremely strong. I was really worried about such a big piece of material, you know, having tensile strength issues, and you know, we go through all this time and trouble to make the slab, and all of a sudden it cracks when we're trying to put it up here on the hearth. We got a couple of sticks of rebar in there just to be sure, and cautious. Here's underneath, so you can see that we got a little bit of a mortar layer right there. That's where we added this second row of bricks here on top of this old row of bricks. These are the ones from the last portion of this video that we just found laying out in the dirt. There was kind of an old red brick pathway coming up to the old front entry of this flipper, and here we are all the way down. I'll keep this parallel for video purposes. Now this section right here, you see how the bricks are all nice and even, and then all of a sudden, why that? So there was a section right here, I think we mentioned in the last last segment of this video, that there was a wood pass through from the outside to the inside. So this hearth section of this fireplace kind of went down this wall and had an opening right here just next to the fireplace that you could open up to a wood bin on the outside of the house. The problem with that is, you know, you got wood, and you know it's outside exposed to the elements, and it makes for a great attraction for pests like termites and that kind of thing. And lo and behold, what happens when the termites find the wood and they're there in your wall coming through in the house? Well, they eat up everything else, right? So in this case, this whole section of wall, we had to have framing contractors come in, open this thing up, and just pull out all the material. In fact, that whole section of wall, front side and outside, was it was almost completely gone. There was not much left. We had pull permits for that kind of thing. It got really involved. So our determination was get rid of the wood pass through for this particular project, because it just is an attractive nuisance for termites, pests, and any other wood destroying pests that might be able to get in there. So we don't want that. We sealed that up. Now we got some concrete work on the outside of this project to get to, and we'll probably put another video together for that. But otherwise, super excited about the way this came out. The slab looks fantastic. You know, it's been roughly a week, and we're probably just short of about 7 days on the cure time on here. So I'm kind of curious as to whether this is just discoloration, or if this is actually still moisture coming out of the mix. Can't really tell. Doesn't matter. When we're finished with this, this is going to be coated with a white epoxy across this piece here. This is going to be a nice, brilliant white mantle that comes all the way across to the bottom of this fireplace here. Now, should note, using the bricks to raise up the level here so that we could get our hose through here. I don't like the length of this hose, and I think I want to put a row of fire brick down in here in the bottom, and then route this hose up to our burning element. And I think on top of that, we're going to put a broken glass. We've looked at a few different products that would be nice to bury a burning element in there. I think we're kind of looking at white or titanium from Fireglass. That seems to be kind of in line with our theme and our scheme that we have going on for here. And then, of course, this old brick back here, we're going to go ahead and coat that over with a fire-resistant paint after giving it a good thorough cleaning. So we're going to clean up all this ash and burn mark and see if we can get as much of the contaminants out of there as possible. This is just an old fireplace. It's been used over the years. There's a little bit of cracking back there in the bricks. Nothing terrible. We had some cameras run on it just to see what the state of affairs is with this thing, and it is what it is. Fire bricks got a little bit of wear on them. No big deal. We put another layer of fire bricks in there and get this thing kind of sealed up. So that's the next piece. We'll get that in there.
we'll get our fire, we'll get our replacement hose. So this slab is not, it's not mounted, it's not glued, it's just being held in there by sheer gravity, and it'll take a couple of guys to move this thing out of the way. So it's not going anywhere. It's completely stable. In fact, I'll stand up here. I mean, this thing is super, super solid. So those bricks are nice and level underneath. Using the mortar was a great idea. Kind of just grab the bricks like we were setting tile. I was able to get a level on top of them just to make sure that we had a nice solid base here for this slab, and it worked out fantastic. So I'm a novice at this, guys. This was real super easy stuff. I've got a total of $100 into this project. Actually finishing out the rest of this, which will continue in this video in some sections as I have it moving forward. But we're going to go ahead and finish out with the finishing elements here. We're going to put some ledgers down here so that we can get our shiplap siding that we're going to use down here in the base. We got to put some bracing and support down there so that when we finish this out, that we've got a nice clean section that covers up all this horrible nastiness over here. You know, and it's not flush. So kind of, if we put the camera here and look, you see this thing protrudes. So we're going to have a ledger that's, well, we got two choices. We put a ledger and shim out the material, which is what the plan is, or we can grind these things flush, and that's just going to make a big nasty mess in here. We already got floor shot down. I really don't want to go back and have to clean up a whole bunch of masonry dust. So I'd rather just put a ledger over there. When we did this slab, you can see we left a nice big thick lip right here, big enough to bury ledger and finishing materials out there. We had that concept in mind when we measured out the form, and it worked out perfect. We were actually a little concerned about the angles, making sure we had our angles correct. We were a little unsure when we were measuring that these were exactly 45 degrees on the money after the walls were finished out and everything. And usually I see that there's always some little thing off, like it's 1/2 degree or something weird. This one wasn't. It was spot on, 45 degrees on each angle. So I mean, they just straight off of they just took a 90 and split it, yeah, which is fantastic. Make my life a lot easier. The worst we got here is a little bit of wave in drywall, and now that that mantle piece is up there, it kind of makes that wave a little bit more apparent. So I've never been in a house that had any wall that was straight, let alone that straight. So I'm happy with what I got here. I think this came out fantastic. It really took $100 in a week, and most of that was just waiting time. I mean, building the form took about 30-45 minutes, no big deal there. Pouring the mud took maybe an hour and a half. Not that big of a deal there. It really was a pretty simple process. Certainly using the flow control mix in there would help. I think we probably, as we were doing this, we could have probably had a little bit more water in our mix, especially after we started blending up with the flow control. I don't think we quite got that pancakey batter that they were talking about in Michael Bill's videos. I think we were just a little bit thicker than that, and I think that's why we probably got these voids and this pitting here, was because we were just a little thicker than what was recommended. So it does need to be good and soupy for the materials to get all the bubbles out I was really concerned about working time and that kind of thing because I have never, again, a novice here, never worked with the product. It does pop off fast, and when it does pop off, it gets hot, which I didn't expect. So a little bit different than concrete, I think. I don't necessarily ever remember working with concrete where it got hot and it kicked and it radiated heat. I've always just kind of see it kind of dry and cure and take a long time, but you know, it's not a product like this. We're not casting it. So this is a whole new experience. I'm going to go ahead and post new videos along with this one as this project continues to form up. So I think we got about another week of build time on this mantle piece, and we'll show you what the finished product looks like. Until then, stay tuned for the next segment of this video, and we're signing off. Here, you can stop it. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, end the video.
All right, looks like we got the mantelpiece in. You can see a little sawdust covered. Let me go ahead and turn around the camera and you see what the finished product looks like. Here we are. So that's a nice big chunky mantle there to complement the concrete hearth. And now to finish out the rest of that in shiplap, see where we go from there. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, we're back. I want to just give you a quick look at the finished result. Let me know what you think. Let me turn this around.